Good morning guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today the vibe around the Manchester United fan base isn't quite as good, and that is because we drew 1-1 in a pretty flat performance against FC Twente in the Europa League last night. So today we're going to break down what went well, but also what went wrong. So let's take a look. So to find out where the problems were for United in this game, I really want to break it down phase by phase. So we're going to start off with the goalkeeper, Onana, with the ball at his feet, and work through the pitch from there to figure out where we really had the problem. Starting off in goal, I think we were actually alright in this phase. We were dropping players deep to try and play out from the back. As we expected, FC Twente were applying a reasonably high press, but I felt that United often done pretty well in these areas, and what I thought we done particularly well was used Onana and Lisandro Martinez. You see, Onana at times was actually almost becoming an extra centre-back for us, and that meant that Lisandro Martinez could move into midfield, with Dalot playing at left-back, or Dalot could invert into midfield like this, and Lisandro Martinez could drop to this left-back position. But by using Onana as an extra outfield player, it means that no matter how aggressive the opposition are, they physically can't match us, unless they get their goalkeeper in the high press, which they're not going to do. And I actually felt that we saw some good moments in this first phase. I felt that we used these two really effectively. So initially, United are good and are doing nothing wrong here. So having played through that first phase of pressure, Manchester United are then going to take another positive step with the formation that we use when we are controlling the ball. And that is Dalot once again moving inside from that left back position into midfield. And we of course saw this at the weekend, and we saw it again in this game. Diogo Dalot looking to move inside the pitch. And he's basically becoming an extra midfielder for us. And it gives us this 3-2 shape. Now the benefit of this is that when you play with a back three, it can overload most pressing teams, but also the 5 players in general is enough to overpower most teams in this area. And this is something that we continue seeing throughout the game. This isn't a one-off thing. This was a regular theme for Manchester United. This was a switch to a 3-2 shape. And that for me is positive, because it gives us a lot of players nearby. It gives us a lot of options on the ball, which should therefore encourage short passing. So again, early on the signs are positive for Manchester United. This is good so far. So where did we start to see a problem? Well, first of all, FC Twente deserves some credit. They were solid defensively. They were really compact. They've obviously seen recent Manchester United games and seen that if you play with high wingers against us, we're going to cause you problems in the half spaces. So what they done was they really narrowed their team off. They were incredibly compact out of possession. All of their players really close to each other. And of course, the first thing this is going to do for United is going to make it really difficult to actually move the ball through the middle of the pitch. People talk about a lack of patterns, etc. at times, but ultimately, when there are 5-6 players here, plus then the back 4 as well, who are compact, it is always going to be difficult to move the ball forward through these areas. However, tactically, I think there is something a little bit wrong with what United are trying to do here. So what does that look like? Well, it starts with Dalot and Christian Eriksen. Now, in the first phase, Dalot has rotated into midfield and Eriksen has moved high. This is a good thing. That means Dalot is the one receiving under pressure, Eriksen often gets more time. We don't mind that in the deeper phase of the pitch over here. However, as we then rotate higher, we're going to rotate them back again. Eriksen is now often going to drop a little bit deeper into the double pivot, because now the opposition are giving us time here, and Dalot is going to play a little bit higher up. Now this is where you start to get a little bit of a problem, because as Dalot moves towards the final third, he's not really a player who's going to excel with that final ball, with that final pass. He lacks that little bit of creativity. There is also a problem here though, where Manchester United are trying to bring Rashford inside onto his stronger right foot. I like that. Rashford was very positive in this game. But that does mean Dalot is then required to go on the overlap. And this is something that United look to do a lot. 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s out wide, that does involve your fullback getting forward. And ultimately, unfortunately for Dalot, when he's actually getting the ball in these positions, he's not that effective because he is playing on his weaker side. He has trouble finding a ball into the box and breaking teams down. He's actually better when he's not used, when he's used as more of like a decoy run to take a player away. So that was one of the problems for Manchester United. The other problem we've got is this new system arguably isn't suiting Bruno Fernandes that well. That sounds a bit of an odd thing to say, but we've seen a couple of poor performances from him now. Now we know that Bruno is brilliant in these positions, centralised just behind a striker. This is where he loves to operate, playing as a 10. However, I would make the argument in this game that he was actually a right-sided central midfielder. He was playing here, and you can actually see it in the heat map. This is where he done most of his work on the pitch. This is a slight tweak for Bruno. He is used to being a player that is given a lot of freedom to move about the pitch, get on the ball pretty much anywhere he wants, and take chances. Create overloads in every area, buzz about the pitch. When you put him in a slightly more isolated role, I'm not going to sit here and say he can't do it, but I think we should give him time to do it. He's not going to instantly adapt to this role. We need to give him time to settle into this new position if we want to see the best of Bruno Fernandes. So this was one of the problems in this game. The other problem was that simply our players were not patient enough on the ball. We didn't move the ball quick enough sideways. We didn't do this quick enough, moving the ball side to side. And the problem when you do that is that the opposition are compact. They're difficult to move. Therefore, Manchester United are sitting there thinking, we're struggling to break them down a little bit. But it's actually United's fault because we're not moving them. But we're struggling to break them down. Therefore, we choose to try and force it a little bit. We try and speed it up. Maguire was guilty of playing a couple of forward passes that just didn't need to happen. Ugarte done it as well. He was forcing the ball forward too much a little bit. Even Christian Eriksen, we spoke about him the other day. But even in that video, when we were really praising him, we did kind of warn that he isn't actually slowing the tempo of the game down. He is still trying to play forward a lot. And on a night like this, United were far too direct. And that is going to come back to hurt us. That is going to come back to be a problem. United being direct on the ball hurt us later on in the game. And it's really frustrating for me because actually when we slow it down, we look so much better. We saw it here for the goal. United actually choose to slow the game down a little bit. We've got United in a 3-2 shape. And you can see we've got Christian Eriksen, I believe that is, with Ugarte in midfield. And we've got that back three in possession. This is all lovely stuff. Now United are incredibly patient on the ball here. Lisandro Martinez actually joins the attack. And that is something that you can do when you have control of the ball. When you're putting the ball at risk a lot by playing direct football, you can't push these players forward because you're going to get burned on the counter-attack. When you play a little bit slower, you have this luxury that you can push the extra man and you can create overload. But importantly, United was still patient. United was still patient. And again, when you are patient, what it allows you to do is take risks because you have the ball in control. If you are in control of the ball, the opposition physically cannot hurt you because United, not once here do we actually put the ball at risk. It's really slow and methodical play. And what this allows United to do eventually is get a load of players forward over this side of the pitch. This is minimum width. All these Manchester United players are incredibly close to each other. And this is the build-up for the goal. Now, yes, we get a bit of luck in the goal. Ultimately, we get a bit of luck here. This 50-50, the ball falls to us. And obviously, Christian Eriksen scores an amazing finish. So it's a bit fortunate. It's a bit of luck. But you make your own luck when you are patient, when you are controlled, when you move the ball forward slowly. You can get more players forward. When you have more players forward, you can work those extra overloads. You can find those extra angles. But also when you have more players forward and close to each other, again, applying minimum width like this, when you do it, it does mean that you are more likely to get the second bounce, a second ball, something go your way, get a bit of luck. And that's why it's so frustrating for United in possession last night. I actually think the structure was pretty decent. Perhaps Dalot should have been more central, more often, I think, in this game. But apart from that, I think it was largely very decent. I actually felt that the individuals, it was the intent was the problem. Structurally, it's okay. We just tried to do it too quick, and that led to us losing a lot of the ball, and we didn't really sustain attacks, and therefore we didn't control the game. And that was also a problem defensively as well. So what we're basically saying to United on the ball here is please, please slow down. What we needed to say to United off the ball last night was please, please speed up. That was the number one problem. We can talk about the structure, and we of course will. The big problem though for Manchester United was the intensity of the players was miles off. Ten Hag has admitted it. FC Twente seemed to want the ball more than us. And I don't care what anyone says about tactics. Ultimately, tactics do not matter if you cannot match the intensity, the work rate, the desire of the opposition. If you can't match that, you are almost never going to win a football match at this level. It simply won't happen. So that is the first major criticism of this Manchester United team. A lot of these players should be ashamed of the performance that they put in off the ball. We don't care about structure right now. Individually, it wasn't good enough. Bruno Fernandes, it wasn't good enough. Eriksen, it wasn't good enough. Marcus Rashford, it wasn't good enough. Dalot, there was a few. You could argue these players did not win enough of their battles. The one I would say who did was probably Ugarte. He was the one who won some of his battles, but even then, you probably want a little bit more. So that is problem number one for Manchester United. The intensity individually wasn't good enough. We also, though, have a structural problem as well. A few of them. And that is, really, to be honest, an inconsistency in the structure for Manchester United. So at times we are seeing United being aggressive in the press. We can see a 4-4-2 shape like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and force the opposition one way like so. And then once we've done that, we're going to trap them this side of the pitch. We're going to be aggressive. The striker could drop in, but we're going to be aggressive. We've got the +1 at the back, and we can win the ball in these areas. That is good defensive work from Manchester United. That is what United should look to do. However, this structure only works if you are intense. And on a night where United's intensity was incredibly inconsistent, you get a problem. Because if you lock it off to one side of the pitch, you do leave the other side of the pitch a little bit bare and a little bit free for the opposition. But if you aren't intense on this side, these players have the time to work the ball and actually then find that side of the pitch. And then here, for example, they can start pulling you out of position. But actually, your winger a lot of the time is going to find himself in a 1v2, and it's incredibly easy for the opposition to move the ball forward. So that's problem number one. Again though, I would argue it's more of an intensity thing within the shape rather than the shape itself. The next problem defensively for Manchester United was probably more of a tactical thing, because that was the confusion, and this is where I do feel a little bit sorry for the players. As a footballer, it is difficult to be intense when you're not fully sure who you are meant to be pressing. Am I meant to apply full intensity to the right back or the right centre back or the right central midfielder? That can cause confusion, and that can make you look a little bit lazy off the ball. And this is where United did struggle a little bit, because at times we would see this approach where Rashford is going to come inside and he's applying pressure to the right centre back, and I would assume that is meant to be his job to do that. But then in some occasions, we would just leave the right back completely free. So yes, there's an intensity problem here regardless, but there's a structural issue here, where at times it's too easy to pin our fullback back like this, and then we're seeing that role again where our midfielders get pulled out, and we know that Eriksen coming out into this situation is a real problem. We know that the second our midfielders get drawn out, we're going to have problems elsewhere, and it's then too easy for the opposition to move it. And this is where Ten Hag has to take a little bit of blame, because this kept happening. This wasn't something which happened once in a game and we addressed it. This happened throughout the night, throughout the 90 minutes. There's a few different pressing systems that United are using. As always, it changes throughout the game, but we never adapted to the opposition. So that's where Ten Hag has to hold some blame. He needs to help his players. Something isn't working in the press. Get a message on the pitch to try and solve it, because it was too easy for FC Twente to drop players deeper, and when they're dropping an extra central midfielder in, we looked really lost as to what we were supposed to do. So that was the second problem really for United off the ball. Now the third problem off the ball for Manchester United is something that you don't even need to watch the game to predict, because I predicted this against Southampton. I told you after the Southampton game that we actually saw it. It happened for the first 35 minutes. But I also told you in the summer that this was a problem that we had to address, and simply we didn't. And tactically we haven't addressed it either. All I want you to do is look at the left side of our defence. Take that box of 4 players. You've got Marcus Rashford, who is probably our weakest winger defensively. He's the worst at doing defensive work, right? Then we look at our left back. Dallow's a great player, but this is ultimately a right back playing at left back. It's not quite natural. Then we've got Christian Eriksen. Again, I would argue defensively probably our worst central midfielder. And then you've got Lisandro Martinez, who just in terms of physicality is the weakest, although he's still a great player of course. But that's instantly going to be a problem for United. Physically, there is a huge problem in terms of intensity here, perhaps physical strength here, and again, just natural fit here. There's a problem for United, and it was coming. I suggested in the summer that if we were to sign a new central midfielder, a ball-winning midfielder, I was hoping for Amadou Onana, but it can be Ugarte as well. I really feel that we have to make this swap. When it's Kobbie Mainoo playing as well, we have to make this swap. Because if not, the left side of our defence, even with Kobbie Mainoo, it's our weaker defensive players. Down the right, we look a little bit stronger, we look more physical, we look more intense. Down the left, we are matching our slightly lackluster players together. And you're going to get punished for that at some point. And again, Ten Hag does need some criticism for this. Of course, the players as well. Rashford and Eriksen, you have to do more. You do. But also Ten Hag, the warning signs have been there for so long. If I could see it and tell you about it in June, Ten Hag should have been able to notice it, right? We should have been able to identify that problem and solve it. But we didn't in this game, and ultimately we saw it for the goal. Now, first of all, we've got that structural issue that we're talking about here. Marcus Rashford gets pulled out of position, and there's no one there to back the press. Rashford is 1v2, there's a lack of intensity, Rashford gets taken out of the game. However, Rashford actually recovers. Fair play to him. Here, make a challenge. Make a challenge. You've got to be stronger, you've got to be more intense. But he isn't, he doesn't make the challenge, so the player carries the ball forward. Error number 1. You should stop him there. Error number 2. Bruno Fernandes starts coming over. Bruno Fernandes starts to help us. Nice, thanks Bruno. You're joining us. You're helping out the team. But around here he decides, actually my teammates have got it. That's alright. So he kind of pulls out of it. He don't bother. Error number 2. Then we've got Christian Eriksen going to come in and join the press. But he is unbelievably flat-footed. It's some of the worst defending technique you'll ever see in midfield. And he gets done far too easily. That's another issue. Now we've got Lisandro Martinez, who has come out and been aggressive, and then as he's got there, he's realised, oh wait, I'm booked, I can't make a tackle here. Damn it, what do I do? There's another error for you. And then we got the next one. Harry Maguire, don't go to ground, just stay big, foul him, to be honest. It's one of those situations for me where what you should do as Maguire is get close to him and then go, you can go past me, or the ball can go past me, but you're not going to get both past me. He should just be big and strong and kind of firm it, basically. But he doesn't, he goes to ground. Then we've got Christian Eriksen, who does whatever this is. He's just so unaware of what's around him, he loses the ball. This is why we don't like him in this deep phase generally. And then Onana, for me, I mean, if we look at the positioning, we look at the body positioning here and the weight distribution, and then just a split second later, he goes so early towards his right-hand side, and then it's put in at the near post. So the goal itself was a lot of individual errors, and it's harsh to blame Ten Hag for that. But in a way, those errors were predictable because of how he set the team up. So that's why the reaction for me is weird to this game. I am nowhere near as negative as what some people are. I think on the ball there's still a lot of positives. We just have to learn to slow it down. Off the ball, I think the player application was poor, and the players need to have a look at themselves. And I think you could consider dropping some of them at the weekend to send a message that it's not okay to play like that. At the same time, tactically there is a problem. Perhaps we can do a separate video on that, really finding the difference between why sometimes we do connect a press and then on another occasion we don't. We need to find a cue. What's going wrong for United there? Because there is tactically a problem here as well. Does Ten Hag deserve criticism? Absolutely. He did not get it spot on in this game. Far from it. But also, the players did let him down a little bit with the way that they played this football match. So, those are my thoughts. I should say again, it's not all doom and gloom. United are in a better position than what we were, but it still needs to be a lot better. A lot better. That's my opinion anyway. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Who was our best player? Who was our worst? What was the problem? Was this a tactical thing, an individual thing? What did you make of the subs? Let me know what you think in the comments, but apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.